Welcome to day 4 of our devotional on Created to Hear God. We're talking all about how to hear God's voice and hopefully giving you your 4 unique and proven ways to confidently discern God's voice in your life. Now, again, we're just touching on some ideas in the book, but I recommend that you grab your Created to Hear God book. It's at everywhere books are sold, but on Amazon, you can also get it on Kindle and Audible, and there's so much more to what we're talking about. But today, if you're opening up your Bible and you're doing the devotional with us, I want you to turn in your Bible to the book of John, John chapter 15, verse 5. John chapter 15, verse 5. And the question that we're going to answer today is, does it really matter if I hear God or not? Like Havilah, does it really matter? I don't preach on stages. I don't have kids at the house. Like, does it really matter? I mean, I can just read my Bible and live a good life. And why does it matter if I interact with God and that I know that he's speaking to me? We're going to answer that today. So I want to read out of John 15:5, and it's on page 20 if you're in your book. It says this: Jesus says to them, I am the vine and you are the branches. If you stay joined to me and I in you, you will produce plenty of fruit. But separated from me, you won't be able to do anything. Jesus makes it really clear. Like, listen, if you want to live an abundant, thriving, fulfilled, connected life, then you got to stay connected to me because I'm your source. I am the one that gives you life, nourishment, all the things that you need. So let's talk about that for a minute. Now, I know for many of us, we go, does it really matter if I'm connected to God or hearing his voice? Well, I really want to ask you some questions, and I want you to think about this. Really think about this. How can you have a relationship with God if you can't hear him? How can you really have a relationship with God if you can't hear him? How can you live as you were created without ever hearing your creator speak? The one that made you, formed you, created you, you never get to interact with. How can you access all his resources if your conversations isn't a two-way street? These questions are really important. Why? Because all of us are faced every single day with a crazy amount of decisions, questions, things that we have to solve. And if we don't have connection to the one that made us, then we actually live with a low level of anxiety and fear and worry that we're going to mess it up because we don't know what we're doing. We can't see in front of us. We don't know how it's all going to work out. And so we need to be connected. So what happens is, as we kind of do life blindly, we just kind of hope, no matter what, I'll just figure it out and it'll solve itself. And sometimes we think, gosh, I just have to suffer through wondering if this is the right thing. And the problem is that the need for connection is undeniable. Now, we might think of that as like our significant other or our community, but an unmet need for connection and communication is actually deadly. The hopelessness will kill you. And I'm not being melodramatic. In fact, there's a psychologist named Amy Sullivan who actually studied this. And she found that the level of cortisol, a stress hormone, goes up when you're lonely. Chronic stress can lead to many health issues, including heart disease and cancer. And because of this many health risks, recent studies compared the effects of loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Havilah, what does this have to do with God and me and everything? Well, because what they have found too, additionally, is that having a relationship with God, they found studies, actually has enormous value. Numerous studies show that people who have reported feeling God's love directly feel less lonely, less anxious, less fearful, and less stressed. Connection to God is vital to our whole self, body, soul, and spirit. And the bottom line is that hearing God speak to you is good for you. It's not hearing God speak to you that actually causes stress and can even be potentially dangerous. So why is it important that we have a connection with God? Because it is not a want, it is a need. I want to explain this for a few minutes. Stay with me. So once our desires, things that can be dismissed, ignored, they can be outgrown. It's like it can change with your age, your season, your circumstances. Ones can come and go. That's very normal. They're useful, but they're not essential. But needs are essential. Needs cannot be dismissed. And there is enormous studies on this reality. In fact, when they are not met, they actually can cause a lot of harm. And eventually we die if our needs aren't met. And we might think water, food, obviously the basic needs that we're taught. But there was even studies that showed that if a baby, an infant, wasn't picked up and held or had that human connection, that they died, even though they were getting fed and even though they were getting clothed and they had those basic needs, they had a need for connection. They had a need for intimacy. And that is not a want, that is a need. So why is that important? Because hearing God speak is the one thing, it's really the reason I wrote this book, is because it's not a hobby. It's not something that goes, I'd love to hear God speak so I could write a book or know who to marry. No, you have a divine supernatural, like at the depth of who you are, you have the deepest need to connect with the one that made you. You see it all the time on the news. You find somebody whose dad never was there or the mom they never met, and they're adopted by this beautiful family and they're live this great life. And you find that very often they go to find their birth mom or their birth dad, even if they're a deadbeat, even if it's not somebody that they want to be related to, they want to find it. Why? Because they want to know where they came from. They want to know who designed them. They want to know if they sound like them, if they look like them. They want to know who they are, and they hope that they can find that in their mom or their dad. Well, even deeper than that, we as human beings have this deep core need to be known and seen and to know why we are created. And only God can give us the reflection of why we were created. Only He can answer those deepest questions, those deepest desires. Again, Jesus said, I'm the vine. And you are the branches, and you got to stay connected to me in order to know what life really is and how to actually live the life that you're in. So it is undeniable. We are created for connection. You are created for connection. It is how God created you. And when you live connected to God, you have access to the miraculous. So why settle for a second-rate existence when you can actually live connected to your Creator? You see, I would suggest that some of the pain, some of the confusion, some of the anxiety, some of the things that you're medicating are because you don't actually see or haven't recognized that your core need of being connected to your Creator is causing you struggle. It's causing a battle. Could your struggles with anxiety, pain, frustration, or even apathy have the same cause? Am I struggling because I'm not plugged into God? Could the deep ache inside me exist because of an invisible disconnection? Could my disconnection be leading me to think things that are untrue or to do things that I don't want to do? In fact, maybe I'm not a failure or a heathen. I'm just trying to ignore my insatiable need for connection. If my negative choices are nothing more than a weak effort to have my way or to get through another day, maybe it's because I'm disconnected. Or could my discouragement be caused by disconnection? And is that what's making me feel defeated? See, I'm happy to report that when you meet God, He begins to answer those questions. In fact, we don't have to live with that nagging reality of who am I and why was I made? Do we need to hear from God every day? Yes, not because we regurgitate something powerful that He told us, but because we need to be able to look in our Creator's face and know that's why I'm here. That's why He created me this way. And this is why I'm loved and worthy. It is essential for you to hear God's voice. It's not just something to put in your tool belt. It is the only way to live a fulfilled and connected life to your Creator. All right, you guys, that's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to answer the question, what can I do differently? If it hasn't been working and I'm realizing that I've been disconnected, what can I do differently to figure out how to hear God's voice? So stay with me. We're going to jump into that idea tomorrow.